question is this: what is your story? What is your story? Everybody has one. Everybody has a story. Some stories are colorful and filled with all kinds of unique, interesting, bright spots, low spots, highs, lows, good things, bad things, adventurous things. Some stories are really, really meek and mild and normal, and they don't really get flashy, and they, if you read them, it would, instead of being like a graphic novel that someone is just entranced by, it would be more like a textbook that someone reads because they need to gain the knowledge from it. But nevertheless, everybody has a story. Everybody has a story, don't we? Today I want to share a story with you from the Bible of a lady named Mary. Everybody heard of Mary? Mm-hmm. There are a lot of Marys in the Bible that you guys have heard of, I'm sure. There are Marys that Jesus met all along the way. There's a Mary Jesus met in Bethlehem the first time. He actually met her long before Bethlehem, although he heard her voice and he understood her touch, but he had never actually seen her until he got to Bethlehem, and everything was kind of new to him then, There was a Mary he met here and a Mary he met there. There was a Mary he healed of this, a Mary he healed of that. There was a Mary he saved here. There was a Mary he forgave here. There were Marys all in the Bible. But this one Mary that I want to talk about is a Mary from a place called Bethany. And Mary had a story, just like we have a story. And we don't know everything that went on in Mary's story. But I do know that, like the song that we just heard, there were probably some deeper things in her story that we don't read about. I think there were some things that Jesus saved her from that we will not know until we get to heaven. And yet, we can tell because of the way she treated him, the way she responded to him, that there was a special connection there. There's a special bond there because of what she was willing to give for him. This Mary of Bethany actually sat at Jesus' feet 3 different times in the Scriptures that we find. The first time she sat at his feet for instruction. And the second time she sat at his feet for comfort. And the third time she sat at his feet for service. And I want us to look at her life for just a moment today, and then I want us to talk about our lives. And I want us to talk about the times that we have sat at Jesus' feet, or the times that we should have sat at Jesus' feet, and maybe even the times that we will sit at Jesus' feet. Turn to Luke chapter 10 if you're not already there. Look at verse number 38. We're going to start reading. This is the first time we're introduced to Mary of Bethany in the Scriptures. She has a unique story because she had the opportunity to be associated with someone else that was very, very close to Jesus. Someone who Jesus eventually did something for that he didn't do for anybody else, but that he will do for all of us one day. The story of Lazarus and how Jesus healed him, raised him from the dead, actually. He'll do that for each one of us one day, too, by the way, if you didn't already know that.
Amen.
Look at verse number 38 of Luke chapter 10, when we meet Mary for the first time. Now it came to pass, as they went, that he entered into a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha received him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, which also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was cumbered about much serving, and came to him and said, Lord, dost thou not care that my sister hath left me to serve alone? Bid her therefore that she help me. Jesus answered and said unto her, Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about many things, but one thing is needful. And Mary hath chosen that good part, which shall not be taken away from her. You see, many of us are like Martha. We serve. We have a duty. We understand our responsibility. We go about our business for the Lord, expect other people to do the same. And if we see someone that doesn't appear to be carrying their weight in this thing of service, we want to jump on the ridicule bandwagon and say, hey, don't you think they should be doing such and such? We don't know what's going on in the lives of other people. People that we don't see here on a regular basis that we wish we saw here. We see once in a while. We see once every 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. We don't know what they're dealing with. People that come on a regular basis but don't seem to really get involved in this, that, or the other. And we serve, and we have a job, and we have multiple jobs, and we wear a lot of hats, and we have a lot of responsibility. And we wonder why they don't jump in there in that thing of service just like we do. But we don't know where they are. We don't know that they may be sitting at the feet of Jesus trying to gain the knowledge that they will need to do a much greater service down the road than we are ever doing or have done or will do. We don't know where people are in their walk with Christ. We don't know where Mary was in her walk with Christ at this house, but we do know that she wanted to learn from the only one who really has anything worth teaching, Jesus. So she sat at his feet. Martha got this groan. She said, Jesus, I'm a little disturbed. I'm here sitting here serving and working, and don't you think she should be doing the same? He said, your service is great. That's wonderful. I appreciate your service. And Jesus didn't knock her service, but he said there's something that's more needful here. There's a need for growth. There's a need for education. There's a need for knowledge. There's a need for understanding of the things that I have to teach. That is more needful right now than her service, and she's not going to be asked to miss out on what is more needful in her life. Mary may have done things in her life, later in her life, that, matter of fact, she did. And I'm sure we don't know all that she did, but we'll find out when we get to heaven. She may have done so many things that Martha could have only dreamed of doing for Christ. Because she was developing a heart for who he really was and what he really came to do, and trying to gain an understanding of who Jesus really, really was. Yes, he was someone that was worthy to be served. And I don't disagree with that. He is worthy to be served. Don't you agree? Amen. But sometimes we must learn of him before we can understand how to serve him. Does that make sense? We must understand who he is and what he expects and what he desires and what he deserves before we can serve in an effective way. Many people in Christendom today serve in ways they were never gifted to serve or called to serve or expected to serve because there's a need. There's a duty. There's a position open. So they fill that position. And though they see good come from their service, they never experience the satisfaction or the productivity that they could have experienced if they were in the place that God desperately wanted them to be, the place he created them for, the place he called them to, though they couldn't hear because they were too busy serving. It's not always a bad thing for people to sit and learn at Jesus' feet before they begin to serve. So some people will sit for weeks and months and maybe even years under the preaching of the gospel, and they will gain insight as to what Jesus is really calling them to do. But preacher, don't they waste a lot of time doing that? I believe that it would be God's position that the faster we understand his will for our life, the better. Because yes, we miss out on a lot of great opportunities for service. But some get it slower, some get it faster. The secret is to get it. I would rather someone sit up under this preaching for years and all of a sudden find themselves in the very center of God's will, doing exactly what God gifted them to do, exactly what God called them to do, exactly what God needed them to do to fulfill his plan, not only in their lives, but in many other lives, than to have somebody jump in with both feet and serve, and do good, but never, ever do great. You won't hear a lot of preachers preaching that because everybody's wanting somebody to do something. Especially a preacher who seems to do a lot and would like other people to jump in there and do a lot too. I believe that there's a place God has gifted us for. And there's a position He's calling us to. And if we don't prepare right for that, we won't be ready when it comes and we'll miss it. And therefore God will miss the opportunity to see His plan realized. Second time we see Mary sitting at Jesus' feet is in John chapter 11. So flip over there, if you will. To John chapter number 11. Let's start reading in verse number 30. The second time we see Mary, she is sitting at the feet of Jesus for comfort because her brother has just died. John chapter 11, verse 30. It says, "Now Jesus was not yet come into the town, but was in that place where Martha met him. The Jews then which were with her in the house, and comforted her, when they saw Mary, that she rose up hastily and went out, followed her, saying, She goeth into the grave to weep there. Then when Mary was come where Jesus was, and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died." Now you all know the story of after that, Jesus actually groaned within himself with sadness. Leading up to this, one of the most famous verses in the Bible, the shortest verse that was ever recorded, Jesus wept, is because of I believe, the unbelief of the people in who He was and what He was capable of doing. The people that looked on and saw Jesus weeping thought He just wept because He loved Lazarus so much and He missed him. And He loved Mary and Martha so much and He hated that they were hurting. I believe that Jesus hated to see them hurt too. I believe the reason He hated to see them hurt was far deeper than most people want to go in their thought process. Jesus knew what He was about to do. Mary and Martha knew of the power that He had. And yet, both of them had said, if He'd only been here, He wouldn't have died. Well, if He was powerful enough to keep him from dying, why is He powerful enough to put life back into him?
Amen.
And that's why Jesus groaned, and that's why Jesus wept. But when Mary came to Him that second time, she came running. Now we know this is not the second time she'd seen Him. We know she had a very special relationship with Jesus. Jesus, the Bible tells us, loved Mary and Martha and Lazarus very, very much. But when we see her the second time, she's at His feet for comfort. So she understood the importance of being taught by the Master.
Amen.
Do we understand the importance of being taught by the Master? I don't know that we do. If the only time we ever get taught by the Master is when you sit here on a Sunday morning for 30 minutes and listen to me rant and rave about something, I don't think you understand the importance of being taught by the Master.
Good.
Master's got a lot to teach you when I'm nowhere around. Master's got a lot to teach you when the Sunday school session is not going on. Master's got a lot to teach you when it's not a Wednesday night Bible study. The Master's got a lot to teach you that you can only learn if you get alone with Him and sit at His feet and let Him talk to you about the things He wants you to do.
Amen.
And He won't talk to you that way all the time when I'm talking or when someone else is talking. He needs to talk to you when you're listening and it's only Him talking.
Good.
She understood the importance of learning from the Master. But she also understood the importance of going to the Master when she needed comfort. Even though she failed to realize the power of Jesus and failed to recognize what He was about to do and what He was capable of doing, and even though Jesus would have rather her come to Him and say, Master, my heart is saddened because my brother's been gone for 4 days. Oh, but now that I see you, I know he can live again. Would you do that for him? Jesus had never done that for anybody else.